Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, people.
So I can see that all our speakers are here except one. Masood, any news from Kibria?
Hello, Tania.
হ্যাঁ আসসালামু আলাইকুম আপা
এই মাত্র আসলাম আর 2:30 তে জানো
আমাদের কিন্তু আজকে ডিপার্টমেন্টের ছিল বুঝছেন এখনো চলতেছে কিন্তু আপনি পেয়েছেন না
হ্যাঁ সেমিনার চলছে তোমাদের কনফারেন্স আর এখানে তো আমি পিন দিলাম আমার তো চলে আসতে পারছিলাম না বুঝছো ভালোই হয়েছে তোমাদেরকে মিস করেছি ভালো হ্যাঁ অনেক ভালোই হয়েছে সিস্টেমেটিক হ্যাঁ
আমাদের ওইটা চলতেছে আমি এখন এখানে ঢুকলাম ওটা এখনো শেষ হয়নি
আমি ঢুকতে চেয়েছি পারলাম না দেখি কালকেও আছে তাই না
কালকে কনক্লুডিং
আমাদেরকে শোনা can you hear us people
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's clear.
Me and Tanya are colleagues, so we are just discussing about there was another event today. I just returned from there and she had another
কেমন আছেন বিপুলদা
ভালো ভালো এই ইকো হচ্ছে কেন
দুটো
ভয়েসে You're not able to hear me?
No, I can hear you. Yeah, it's clear now.
বিপুল দা কতক্ষণ চলবে
এই 4:30
ও আমাদের পাশে কনফারেন্স শেষ হয়ে যাবে
আচ্ছা কালকে আবার যাবেন
না আমার সকালে সেশন ছিল যার জন্য আমি আরেকটা প্রোগ্রাম অ্যাটেন্ড করতে পারিনি আপনাদেরকে রিপ্লাই দিতে পারছিলাম না এই কারণে
আচ্ছা so we still have Masood, any news from Masood?
So let me check with Masood.
Any news from Kibria?
আমার নেট আজকে যে কি অবস্থা পা আমি মানে 16 বের হয়ে গেছি
কেন
আমি জানি না আমি তো যে পিএম অফিসের পাশে থাকি এত বাজে আমাদের নেটের অবস্থা
ওই অল্টারনেটিভ দিয়ে রাখি আমি দুই একটা জাস্ট কালকে এমনিতে প্রবলেম ছিল ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটিতেও
আচ্ছা নাকি
একাডেমিক কাউন্সিল ইস্যু হ্যাঁ
আচ্ছা
How is the COVID situation in Bangladesh? Better?
Better comparatively, yeah. But today I think it's higher. Yeah, fluctuating.
Okay.
Yeah, but like vaccine situation is good. Like people are registering a large number. Yeah.
Right. That's nice.
ফাইন ভাই
এই দাদা
ভাই কেমন
আছি সাবিয়া how are you
ভালো 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 আছি নাইস টু
হ্যাঁ ভালো আছি আমরা সবাই তানিয়া থ্যাংক ইউ আপা হ্যাঁ বিপুল দা
ফাইন ভাই আসসালামু আলাইকুম
ওয়া আলাইকুম আসসালাম ওয়া রাহমাতুল্লাহি ওয়া বারাকাতুহু
পুরোটা কমপ্লিট করতে হবে।
হ্যাঁ, তাহলে অনেক গোনা হয়। হ্যাঁ, আমার আপা হাসে শুনে। বিপুল দা, আপনি কি আসছেন নাকি মার্চের 26 তারিখে? না, ওরাকান্দি নিয়ে যাব আপনাকে।
এখনো ঠিক নাই।
মাহবুবা আপাদের বাড়ি কিন্তু ওরাকান্দির একদম পাশে।
এখনো ঠিক নাই।
হ্যাঁ,
নামটা আছে।
হ্যাঁ, ওরাকান্দি যাওয়া
কি
যাবে।
হয় দেখা যাক।
হ্যাঁ, গোপালগঞ্জের ওরাকান্দি যাচ্ছেন, মোদিজি আসতেছেন।
হ্যাঁ,
আমাদের ওইখানে বড় ঠাকুরেরই আছে ওরাকান্দি।
Hello.
Hi Nisha.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Fine.
All good to see all of you.
Now I can see you in full.
Good.
Hello.
Yes, I have
Hello.
just adjusted my camera.
Yeah.
How are you, Nisha ji?
I'm good. How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah. Nice to
Hello
see you.
Nisha, this is Shahin from Unnayan Samanay, Dhaka.
Hello. Hello. How are you? Nice to
Fine.
meet you.
Fine, you are?
Hello, Tanya.
Hello, Nisha.
So who else is joining us?
As a speaker, Kibriya is going to join us. We have Sabbiya, then you, Ratul from Assam. We have Mahbuba, Nasreen, Tania Haq, and Kibriya from Bangladesh. So, Shahin bhai, Kibriya এখনো join করে নাই?
ফোন দিচ্ছি দাদা, কিবরিয়াকে ফোন দিচ্ছি।
Then we can start. I think people are, those who have registered, they are going to join. And we are also live streaming it in YouTube.
Very good.
But I must say that there is a bit of a fatigue on webinars. That has also kicked in. So Nisha, are you in your office or working from home?
I'm at home.
Okay, good.
Where are you? You're also at home?
No, today I'm at home. Otherwise, our office is open, full office.
Yeah, our office is also open. So some days I go, but most days I'm at home, and I'm getting used to the idea of working from home, and there is this inertia that has set in, permanent inertia.
So I thought, sorry, have you taken the vaccine?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
No.
I thought that you are already more than 60 years old, so you should.
I like the way you're keeping track of my age.
Are you going to stay with us after?
Sorry.
From Bipulda, he said that your age is you are 60 years age.
No, Nisha is more than that.
We request to expand the word.
So she is going to get the vaccine on priority basis.
Yes, my vaccination is due on Friday.
No, I'm just about 25, so my turn is going to come much later.
And my second dose is due on 10th April. First dose already completed.
আপনারা গিনিপিগ বানাইছে?
ওটা না, 7 তারিখে অনেকে গিনিপিগ হয়ে গেছে, আমি তো 10 তারিখে মার্চ।
ভাই আপনি কি 1 মাস পরে দিচ্ছেন না 2 মাস পরে?
2 মাস পরে।
2 মাস তো হয়নি।
2 মাস পরে। 2 মাস হবে এপ্রিলের 10 তারিখে।
Okay.
But I thought it is between 4 to 6 weeks. The second dose has to be between 4 to 6, after 4 to 6 weeks.
In our country, it will be 8 weeks.
8 weeks, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So shall we start?
I think
we should. I mean, Kibriya is going to join. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Haats International and Unnayan Samanay Dhaka, let me welcome all of you to this webinar where we are going to talk about various aspects, various dimensions of border Haats. I'm not going to go into the details. I guess most of us, if not all, we are aware about this initiative, which is going on quite successfully, I would say. for over the last 8 odd years, more than 8 years now. Though due to COVID pandemic, they are not operational at the moment. So this is as part of a project which we are implementing in partnership with Unnayan Samanvay and with the support from the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Organization of the United Kingdom under its program called Asia Regional Trade and Connectivity Project. So we have been working over the last 2 odd years, and we have already passed or crossed a significant distance as far as this subject is concerned. And perhaps Haats and Unnayan Samanvay are the only two organizations who are working that deeply on a subject like this. Of course, I know that ICRIER is also working on various other issues in border areas of India and Bangladesh. So that's very commendable, and we are very glad to have Nisha with us today, other than the other speakers, of course. So as part of this project, we, among other things, we have published a number of briefing papers and discussion papers which have been written by experts, and some of them are present today. So one of them is Sabyasachi Datta from Asian Confluence, headquartered in Shillong in Meghalaya, which is one of the states in Northeast India where 2 of the 4 operational border huts are located. So we are very glad to have Sabya with us today. Some of you would know him, I'm sure. The other paper is written by Mrs. Mahbooba Nasreen, where she has looked at a very important aspect of this initiative, that how it is helping women's empowerment, particularly economic empowerment of women, and what are the challenges going forward. Then we also looked at, after working on this subject for so many years, earlier we did a study in partnership with the World Bank and Unnayan Samanvay, where we have understood the subject in its totality, I would say. But at the same time, we haven't found much media coverage about these initiatives. In the national media, I'm not talking about local media. In local media, there is a lot of coverage, by the way. But in national media, we are yet to see much coverage. Why is it so? So we looked at the subject, and Asjadul Kibriya, who is with Financial Express of Bangladesh, he has done a paper on this, that the role of media in taking this initiative forward, particularly at level in national capitals in particular, and among other think tanks and other stakeholders. So today in our webinar, we are going to discuss these 3 papers, and we also have a distinguished set of panelists who are going to discuss this and other dimensions of border huts. We have Nisha from ICRIER, we have Tania Haq from Dhaka University, and have Ratul Barua from Assam. He was with Assam Tribune, if I remember correctly, and my apologies if I get it wrong. Right now he is working independently, and he's a journalist who is very much on the ground and covering many of these issues, not border hut in particular, but many existing legacy, existing as well as emerging issues in border areas, and how they should be addressed actually, to see to it that these areas become a place for peace, security, stability, and prosperity. So with that, on that note, let me first request Sabya for your thoughts. Just to summarize your paper, he has looked at how this initiative can be upscaled actually. And not just summarizing your paper, but your thoughts of how can it be taken forward on the ground. So over to you, Sabya, in about 10-12 minutes.
Thank you, Pulda, and thanks to Haats for this wonderful initiative. that you've taken, and thanks for involving me in it. I had presented an idea uh, which is maybe could be thought of as rather outlandish to some, maybe a little bit ahead of its time. But I thought that nevertheless, the idea holds merit because of the few factors to spell out. One, I think we are in a year in 2021. Bangladesh celebrates 50 years. India is going to celebrate 75 years next year. It's been a long relationship built on various facts, various facets of history. But it is a time to think of how we can leapfrog, make a generational shift. And this idea was sort of triggered by such a spirit that can we think of a border heart, next gen border heart, or what I call a border co-prosperity zone, becoming a next sort of a leapfrog in India-Bangladesh relations. This is specific to India and Bangladesh. We cannot take the same kind of a step with our other neighbors, such as Myanmar, for reasons we all know now. The second point that has been driving this idea is that there is a lot of interest in the overall portfolio of India-Bangladesh relations in the context of better regional security in South Asia, better regional integration, India-Bangladesh in the Bay of Bengal community. There are lots of connectivity projects on the way. Yesterday, the Prime Minister of India inaugurated a few more projects with the Maitri Setu over the Feni River. Ka had a lot of work on these areas also. We at Asian Conference have been also doing our humble. But all these projects, while these are happening, we also might acknowledge that there is a perception on both sides that what are the real benefits of this connectivity. And for example, I hear in some of I think one of the papers it was also written, and I hear from friends in Bangladesh that there are sometimes, I may be wrong, but please correct me, but there are perceptions that, what is this connectivity going to do for the last man in the mile? Is it a unilateral, is only India going to gain by it and not Bangladesh? Those are thoughts. Similarly, on the Indian side, there are concerns about, people, what is happening at the borders, concerns about, migration, etc., etc., etc. We all know about it. So there is a reality that a lot is happening with respect to connecting the two countries, but there's also a perception that what is it really going to do? And for that perception to be in sync with the intention, which is better regional integration, better prosperity, better inclusive growth for everybody, which we all share this, I'm sure, in this room, this project, there needs to be, again, a leapfrogging of something ground up. And again, a next generation of something that happens at the border, not via the border, not through the border, but at the border of India and Bangladesh could be a game changer. While I will focus on what could be done at the border, yes, transformation at the border could be achieved via trade, which you all talk about. We all talk about transformation through transit. A lot of transit projects are happening. More transit projects are coming up. More rail connectivity, more inland waterways, more ICPs, all of that. But the two facets we might give focus to is one is using tourism at the border for better trust building at the border. I saw in one of the papers that I think Mr. Kibria's paper said that, he did an analysis of the Google search, and there was very little interest at the border on border Haats in Bangladesh. But I can say that if we looked at people who are interested in visiting, say, the Dauki border or the Jaflong, area of bordering Meghalaya in the Sylhet district, there will be a lot of Google searches. So there is an interest of visiting the border, viewing the border, visiting relatives across. So can we use this kind of trust, this kind of border tourism to build better trust? These are the borders. So combining transformation for trade, transit, tourism, for better trust building, we proposed this idea that we could come up with an idea of demarcating maybe an area on both sides, called a border co-prosperity zone. It could be inspired by something that could happen. I visit as a student in the US. We often used to visit border towns in the India-Mexico border, where you have you could go out for a day out and visit the town both sides. There is a fence, but nevertheless, so this border co-prosperity zone, yes. So this border co-prosperity zone could be an earmark. It's just an idea that it could have curated programs such as events, cultural shows, food festivals, maybe border conference facilities, a sort of a logistics hub. So combine all these aspects into something where the common people can visit the border and generate interest in the border. I was particularly, encouraged by some trends that we saw in Tripura, for example. Tripura's border Haat, unlike Meghalaya, which is a little far from the capital city of Shillong and rather inaccessible, you have to go through an arduous road from. But Tripura, Kamla Sagar is very near to Agartala, and there used to be a lot of people who used to just go there for checking things out, buying things. And we could see that there were some high value products like saris and handicrafts coming into the borders. But because the mechanism is of such of a border Haat, it has also, I understand, been stifled to some extent, because of the restrictions that come with the border Haat, of demands by of the various facets. So that's why I'm not calling it a border Haat, but a co-prosperity zone, which is like a zone we could create, sort of a border town. I think Preetam Banerjee had a paper earlier, which was similar to that idea that, we could think about it. And my last point is that I think this could also help two more cases, which is mainstreaming the case of more participation of women in trades and services at the border, because it's not just somewhere just selling something small, but it could upscale, leading women entrepreneurs to come participate, having different kinds of programs, women leaders from the local areas to come take the lead in empowering women in the region, in the border area. Also, it would create more interest, referring to Mr. Kibria's paper, on better news interest and media interest at the border, more generation of more fruitful stories, what's happening, what could happen. A conference could be organized at the border. A major fair could be, a festival could be organized. I've suggested a series of a calendar of programs throughout the year at a border co-prosperity zone. This kind of a zone, how it works out in totally with the security establishments, do we establish it in the no man's zone, or do we have a special agreement between the two countries where it's sort of a zone which exists in both the countries? Those I have not dealt with really, because they're rather involved. So it's just kind of laying the seed of an idea, which we think would really leapfrog the trust factor and put spotlight at the borders for in the larger context of regional cooperation and bilateral cooperation, India and Bangladesh. I will stop here maybe, and unless somebody has
Thank you.
questions.
Thank you. Thank you,
Good.
Sabha. I'm sure there will be some questions or clarifications, even thoughts. After hearing you, I mean, one thing which is very clear, that we have to work much more closely with the security agents. Though things have improved as compared to what it was in the past. In the past, it was everything was being looked at from quote unquote security prism. And but things have improved. I mean, we are now looking at things not just in terms of, let's say, military security, but in terms of or the traditional aspects of security, but also in terms of economic security, cultural security, and things like that, social security and things like that. So the point is that we have to work much more closely, which we are doing. Is not that we are not doing, but much more closely with the security agencies, both in those locations, in state capitals and in national capitals. Now, before I come to Mrs. Nasreen, my apologies for missing one very important point in my opening remarks, which is that this is the 50th anniversary of Bangladesh's liberation, and also 50th anniversary of our diplomatic relations with Bangladesh, India-Bangladesh diplomatic. And we are going to see a number of initiatives, events, programs throughout this year. It was also 100th birth centenary of Bangabandhu. So it got delayed, the celebrations, because of COVID, but nevertheless, we are going to see a number of initiatives to take forward this friendship. One thing which I would like to point out is that this is also the 50th year. I am very conscious about not using the word anniversary, because usually we use this word anniversary for positive things. 50th year of the most gruesome genocide that the world has witnessed in its history. If I normalize the data, either in terms of months, number of months, or in terms of population, this is much more than what we witnessed or what we heard about during the Holocaust period, preceding and during the Second World War. But the unfortunate thing is, 3 million people were killed over a period of just 9 months. The unfortunate thing is that the international community is yet to recognize it. And we are doing everything for the international community to recognize it. So on that note, let me now request Mrs. Nasreen for her thoughts again in about 10 to 12 minutes. And not just to summarize your paper, which is very good, but also going forward, what further that we can do. Like as I said, we have to engage more with security agencies. What further that we can do for furthering the cause of women's economic empowerment through an initiative like this. So over to you, Mrs. Das.
Thank you. I just went out for some times, I think. Yeah. So I have been listening to the paper. It's also about summarizing the border hat initiatives in Bangladesh. Before, with this task with you and Unnayan Samunnoy, even we wouldn't known much about the border hat and about that historical perspective. Because within South Asia, if you know that participation in labor market, like Haats type of things, it's very few. It's scant in Bangladesh. But due to this initiative, I believe that this has improved already, and in the policy advocacy, due to the gender inclusive budgeting and other policies within South Asia, that participation in bordering areas, specifically this initiative located like in remote areas, this has increased or has emerged in Bangladesh. So in this study, if you went through the briefing paper, that border huts, that why we need to include women in this empowerment, from the empowerment perspective. And you all know the indicators of empowerment, and we all know about the sustainable political empowerment. And then one issue we always mention about that reproductive health related, which is also related to border hut, that if focus on any of the economic empowerment participation to their ensuring their interests. So in this, like in the public-private sectors, we don't see that women are, that has happened. But gradually we know that due to opening some of the avenues, that women's mobility has increased, and also they are participating in many aspects or many, and
Sorry, I think there are some issues with the network connectivity.
Network connection, yeah. Sorry.
I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Otherwise, I would request Kibriya Bhai to present your thoughts. Then I'm sure that Mrs. Nasreen's network connection is going to become better.
I am trying to contact with Mrs. Nasreen.
Okay, fine.
Kibriya, please.
Bipul da.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bipulda, and thank you very much, Haats and Unnayan Samanway, to involve me in this project. And I also thanks Haats to nicely edit the briefing paper I prepared. It's an interesting experience. So as Bipulda mentioned earlier, I am not going to summarize the paper. Rather, I'm trying to give some thoughts and ideas what we actually think regarding the border huts. One thing is clear, that the border hut, interest of border hut has increased over the last couple of years, and it is mainly due to the program taken by the Haats and Unnayan Samanway and their study papers and conferences and seminars and all this, and the dissemination of all the comments and studies through the media and seminar. This definitely create a interest in both the country, I guess, in Bangladesh and also India, and also in the capital part, where actually the journalists in Dhaka and Delhi and the main cities, they usually try to focus on the more on macro and broader perspective, and they it is due to they are mostly briefed by the foreign ministries and local trade bodies and all, and also the international seminars, conferences through this. So the problem is to covering the border huts widely is that the field visit is rare. Usually the journalists who stay in the center, I mean, in capital city and big cities, they usually don't visit the border areas unless somebody invite and make a trip for them. Now the main media, the newspapers, they actually have the correspondents in the border areas. So, and the correspondents, they dispatch the stories of border areas, border huts, related border trade, border economy, smuggling, whatever things. So they are better capable to understand what actually happening in the field. But when it comes to the desk in central desk, so there is also problem of perspective and also the problem of view. I must say, uh, uh, for example, in Bangladesh, some of the newspaper media or houses, they try to consider it well, as Mr. Shabar Datto mentioned, what is the benefit of the border hut and why it is a unilateral thing. It is benefiting actually India, all the connectivities and transit. It is mostly biased on India or benefiting in India. This kind of misunderstanding is also there. A view is also there. It is very strong in some cases. So the stories dispatched from the border area does not get adequate proper coverage. So this is one thing. And my understanding with discussion with some Indian senior journalists in Delhi and Calcutta also give me the same impression that in the center, those who are in the central desk or in the main who are handling the stories, they think ultimately what they are thinking, what their perspective, that is the main. What the correspondents dispatching, that is not maybe the true or not maybe the right thing. So this kind of problem, I think, okay, this is there and it will continue. But nevertheless, in some of the journalists in both the countries, they have also extended their cooperation with each other to get the better picture and better idea. I think this is a very good thing and this is very important. So because when they interact with each other, they can get their own perspective and other perspective, and they can get the views and information. They can exchange the information, and they can then make the story, or they can disseminate, write a piece in a better way. So what my my main argument is that the journalists in both the countries should cooperate with each other more frequently, and they need to exchange views, information, and ideas. The exchange of information is very important. It is because you know that when in Bangladesh, in my experience and in another journalist experience, we see that when the foreign ministry or commerce ministry have a talk with the counterpart of India, they usually uh, did not provide the full information or accurate full information, or they provide only some brief on some selective things. They don't want to disclose many things in the meeting. Okay, we know that something is officially secret or something is sensitive, whatever it is, but the hiding the information, it is a growing trend in the government policymakers, and they think it is better to just give a press release instead of directly briefing or instead of facing the press conference and questions. Earlier, we used to ask the secretaries and all the ministry officials what is happening, why you raised this issue, why you did not raise the. So now there is the scope is limited. They don't want to face the media. So this is a challenge for media also, a very challenge. And so in this through this process, what we are actually getting the partial, even some cases, some media reports some kind of distorted pieces of information on the news. That creates also some kind of problem and misunderstanding. And then the policymakers and also the government officials, they think, oh, that this media are not giving the right picture, so we must avoid them, or we should not provide give them access. So this is challenging. I don't know. So this kind of challenge we have to overcome with the more interaction with the government officials and policymakers, and trade bodies is also another important issue. I mean, trade bodies have a lot of access, and they know because they are handling the both side. They are the real player. Also, they are interacting with the government policymakers and also experts. So with the help of the trade bodies, the journalists also used to get some information. So, but now this kind of information is also a little bit tricky here. In this context, what I think is that the media, okay, the media is also the media also is always face challenges, and it is there. There is no way that there is no easy thing. Media have to face challenges and also overcome the challenges to disseminate the information. And so how this challenge can be overcome, we may also think about this. And this is, to do this, I think this bilateral cooperation among the media people is very important. So that I mentioned. And also the interest. Okay, not all the journalists are equally interested on the in different issues. And some have also developed their own, through their own interest, they develop their own expertise and own uh, field of area. I think Shubhida is here. He can say something, add something very, because of his vast experience, how he developed the expertise in this area. But not all the journalists are in that position to develop. So it is important to cooperate each other and to disseminate the information, share the information, get the information, and also try to visit the border areas regarding what the real stories are there, to understand the real stories are there, to feel the real stories are there. So I think I should stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kibriya. One thing which is coming to my mind, I think it's very important role that the foreign ministry should play in this regard. You see, foreign ministry tells a media house or a journalist that, look, this is one initiative which is working on the ground. And when you talk about bilateral relations, we always think about confidence building measures in various contexts, not in one single context. But this is one initiative which is working on the ground. People are happy. Why are you not covering it? Why don't you cover it? Then I think media houses will be much more proactive. Of course, I know that for journalists based in capitals, it is much more lucrative or sexy to visit Singapore as compared to Chagalnaya. I mean, why the hell somebody would go there to do? But there, the stories are there, the actual stories. I mean, I'm reminded of many journalists who have actually covered the liberation war. I mean, many of them from outside East Pakistan, the then East Pakistan, and how they have covered it. And some of those stories have come up very vividly in Revan Sawan's recent book on those days. I'm forgetting the exact name of that book. Some very tongue twisting Bengali, I would say.
Yes,
somebody has translated for him, and he must be maybe BA and MA in Bengali literature. Anyway, so thank you very much, Kibriya bhai, once again. So we'll come back to this point. I understand that Mrs. Nasreen is now back. Now she has joined.
Yeah.
So I will give the floor to her first, and then I'll come to Nisha, Tania, and Ratu. Over to you, Mrs. Nasreen.
Thank you, and sorry for the interruption. And linking with Mr. Kibriya and media, in fact, influence, that was my starting point, that do we know what we don't know? In that case also, many women even do not know that there is a scope for doing some entrepreneurship development or doing some small business in Bangladesh side or in the Indian bordering areas. So gender budgeting in ministries and also in Bangladesh, I just giving references, introduction of interest-free loan or low interest loans for microcredit system for women business. That is in fact not known to the bordering areas. What we find in the study that start-up business and trading, the women in the bordering areas, they don't know about it. And the concept of border hut is completely new, that specifically the participation of women as vendors, and it is infancy stage that we have mentioned. So in Bangladesh also there are one point we have to do, that is comparison, when we compare, we find that cultural valuing and norms play a strong role. Not in only Bangladesh side, but also depending on the cultural practices in Indian side. For example, if we look at the like Meghalaya, India, there are so many women are participating in the like number of women are more. Then number of women in the closest area like Sunamganj border area. But at the same time, if we find even that women is not more mainstreaming culture, but is from indigenous communities. So if we look at another area of India, we find that Tripura side is hardly any women you can see there in the trade, the bordering area. So it's not only the religion itself or others, it's also it's the whole women's cultural identity depending on the society or community they are living. So that is one of the area that women empowerment perspective we have to look. And if we also look at that like this 2% women, why they are not participating, there are also accessibility is a matter, like infrastructural facilities that also plays significant role in these bordering areas. Because we always say that from gender dimension, we always look for the wash life facilities, water, sanitation, and hygiene for women, and a separate toilet. Like in the Indian side, there is a toilet built, constructed for women vendor, but it's not usable by the Bangladeshi women or Bangladeshi women vendor. So like water hygiene issue and unsafe, and security another issue with that somehow like women sometimes they don't feel infrastructure facilities if it is not like accessible, so they are unable to carry things by themselves. And also if they feel it unsafe, that is also another issue. So there are some specific challenges that we have mentioned, like whether like from where these women are coming, because it's mobility point of view, whether the women belong to that community or not, that how close the Haat area is, then we can have a policy based on that. And whether he or she is running her own business, like whether anyone helping or she's doing her own. And also another factor is that does she has a bank account, because sometimes if she applied for loan, there are so many things that she needs to do, a women vendor. So these are some of these area that we need to focus if we look at the business sector, and if we look at the advantages of the better environment, would like to create better environment for women. So what kind of items they are purchasing from market, that is also an issue for the women who are in the, like we find that those who cannot purchase expensive things. So which one is relatively cheaper in the bordering areas, that will give some rooms for women to sell their products. So that comparison also required. And also I think that people they also mention about the good like sense of knowledge, or I think there are good initiatives for the foreign ministry, that they have to look at all of these areas, like special initiatives we have to take, so that like women vendor, like Indian side, you can see that women vendor, number of vendorships for in favor of women have increased, like from 12 to 25, I think. So this is also a remarkable like issue to address from gender equality side, or increasing number of women participation in the border Haats, which is not common in Bangladesh bordering areas, which is not visible. So there are some like situations which will bring common like attentions towards the political system or political goodwills we need. And what are the items that they are they need to produce, or they need to focus on, or the women have to give monopoly type of attention or access to those kind of product making. For example, there are so many handicrafts like based on indigenous knowledge and skills. They are fading out. They are just withering away. We don't find them in anymore. So how to bring back those so that many people will be interested, and lot of information sharing activities we think that is required. So sell in the sometimes women purchase or sell for family consumptions only, like so many items like vegetable, fruit juice and other things. So what are the essentials that women need to sell, and another women have to purchase from those women, feel comfortable to purchase only from women. That is also one of the areas that we have done. Another focus, I don't know whether mentioned in the paper, that is the timing of the Haat. Like what time, because we know that in the highly gender division of labor based society, there is a strict gender division of labor, and that is not shared. So what is the time, actual time? That could be a different, like a market corner could be created only for women, a flexible hour where women will come and others will purchase, because women are not always coming to market to purchase in things. So ensuring the securities, special wash facilities and others, if we could give a corner for women specifically with all other facilities, that would be, I think, a better area, or that will bring some significant change for women. So that's like, you know, that in the paper you will find the number, and like if they can come to but like whether it's not the vendor women, it's also vendors who are coming to purchase goods. So in environment for them also to be ensured, and we will find. And another issue I think we have mentioned about the wage discrimination. Even some women may come to assist another women. So what would be the wage for them? It should be equal to a man. Then we will find many others. Say women vendor will be like, or the business, small trade business women will be more comfortable to employ a female in her businesses. So that's why if we can give some more avenues to women, enhancing their participation, empowering them will be one step further. And that cultural norms and practice. So in Bangladesh, you will know that there are so many initiatives for women, specifically I think within South Asia also. So like vendorships and other prospects, we need some information to them. So capacity building is one of the initiatives that we always suggest. A woman not coming directly to a business or market, she needs to be empowered to build some capacity. So their training requirement, like flexible working environment, and also infrastructure facilities. These we are like recommending financial support already I have mentioned, and the local level of skills, so they know what to do about it. And at the end, we have to increase the awareness of women, so that gender sensitive community, gender sensitive family members, and also policymakers, local government, they are overcoming those mentality or the cultural practice of patriarchal customs, attitudes that we mentioned, and the practices that will hindrance the women empowerment. So I think I should stop here. And
okay, thank you, Mrs. Nasreen, for underlining or highlighting all these specific points. I will use the word specific as against small, and there is a specific reason for it. This may sound small, but they are very, very important. For example, And here comes the question of intention, willingness, in also awareness about these specific issues. For example, as you said, there in one border hut you have seen that there is a toilet for women on the Indian side, but Bangladeshi women vendors are not allowed to use that. Why the hell that it should be like that? I don't understand. I mean, even those who are not in those areas, they will not be able to. So it's not the job of a joint secretary or additional secretary to look into these issues. It's the job of the local bureaucracy, local babus, to look into those things. We have this border hut management committee. This is a joint committee. I mean, why are they not doing it? Uh, does it require any meeting, any discussion, any meeting? I mean, I don't know, since I've never worked in the government. Maybe it requires. But the point, if we can identify these specific issues and then do effective advocacy at the local level with the local bureaucracy, particularly with the border hut management committee, then many of these issues can be resolved. It's a question of awareness, willingness, intention, not so much about content. It's more about intent. So on that note, thank you very much, all our paper writers, speakers. Now let's come to the distinguished panel of experts who have kindly agreed to be part of this discussion. So I'll come to Nisha first, then to Tania, and then to Ratul. Nisha, after hearing all these things, you have been aware about this work, you are part of it. What next?
Yes.
What is it that we can do, either individually or together, in taking the initiative? I have a feeling, and this is very, very serious feeling, that as a result of COVID, since it is not operational for almost a year now, just about a year now, the interest, the momentum may get lost, though a number of new border huts are yet to come. The other day, Prime Minister has spoken about, our Foreign Minister, he has spoken about it. Also, the Bangladeshi Foreign Minister, he has spoken about it. So what next? In about 10 minutes, Nisha?
Sure. Thank you, Bipul. It's a privilege to be here with all of you on this panel. And I must thank you, Bipul, for calling me today, because I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed reading all the cuts, briefing papers on border huts. You know, I must congratulate everyone who has contributed to this, because it is really a huge contribution to a better understanding of what the border huts are about. And not just that, the kind of ideas that have been generated through the course of these papers is amazing. And I think we now have so much ground on which we can build and, you know, take the border huts to a completely different level. So congratulations, Vipul, for this wonderful initiative that you have taken. And congratulations to all those who have contributed to making this happen. Now, you know, when we're talking about border huts and scaling them up, I think we need to understand what scaling up means, because it could mean different things to different people. And it's a good line because it's open to interpretation, and you get more ideas if you come up with a term like that. So let me go to first the purpose of border huts. And the significant feature of cross-border huts is, as opposed to standard trade, lies in the geographical limit of 5 to 10 meters, which actually makes transport costs almost irrelevant. And it allows traders to leverage differences in the supply, demand, and prices of various goods and services available on either side of the border. So the huts are basically catering to border communities, and they help provide three kinds of freedom to traders. The first is no procedures or fees. The second is no tariffs. And the third is no transport costs. We also need to remind ourselves about the benefits of border huts. And these border huts are basically a significant driver of employment. Cross-border trade generates income for households that would otherwise live in poverty. And most importantly, the huts are actually helping strengthening people-to-people contact between families across the border. In remote regions where employment is scarce and salaries are low, cross-border trade is actually generating income for an entire household and is probably more profitable than alternative income economic activities. Also, cross-border trade makes otherwise unavailable goods available to consumers across the border, or provides them at lower prices. Finally, cross-border trade has a gender dimension that's been discussed a lot. Women can be actively involved in border trading activities. However, in the Indian case, it hasn't yielded the desired results, especially if we look at the participation of women as vendors. We looked at it 3 years ago, and we looked at Srinagar, Kamla Sagar, Kalaichar, and Balat. And what we found was that there wasn't a single woman trader in Kamla Sagar and Srinagar, and there was only one in Kalaichar, and there were 8 in Balat out of 25 who were given a license. Subsequently, when we were doing the study, we actually suggested to the Commerce Ministry that there should be a reservation for the number of women traders who were given licenses. And we understand that these guidelines were put in place, but we really don't know whether it was mandatory for the border huts to actually give licenses to 1/3 of the women or not. On the ground, we really don't know how that guideline is operating. So how do we conceptualize a border hut? Let's place it in the context of the entire land border. The border is complex. It has integrated checkposts. It has land custom stations. It has that are functional. It has non-functional land custom stations. Then it has border huts. Then it also has informal trading markets. And for instance, on the Bangladesh-Mizoram border, there are 14 informal trading markets, and these have existed traditionally for decades. And informal trade takes place between at these markets, and border agencies have actually never disrupted these activities and have quietly actually facilitated these activities. And, you know, while I really liked the idea that Sabyasachi had of the border cooperative zones, and the concept I found very, very exciting. But this, to my mind, I don't think it means that we should scale the border hut to that level, but rather this could be a zone which could complement the different kinds of mechanisms that we have along the breadth of the border. So rather than a substitute to the existing border huts. So, and how do we see this India-Bangladesh border 10 years from now? Well, there have been major connectivity initiatives, and so what we can envisage is that we would have international gateways, which would probably be bigger than the existing ICPs, that would connect India and Bangladesh to the east. And then we would have small and medium ICPs and land custom stations, which would be upgraded with the minimum infrastructure. And we also expect that multimodal transport to be taken to a different level. We expect to see transport corridors, which get converted to economic corridors, which would essentially come up along these gateways. And we also expect to see SEZs coming up, like, for instance, what is planned for Sabroom. So now border huts would essentially coexist with all of these and would have a specific purpose. So by definition, what we're saying is that border huts would be small. They would cater to small traders with a specified limit on the size of daily transactions, and that large traders are the ones who would be using the other routes. So in this context, what would scaling up mean? Scaling up would then mean that we increase the number of vendors, we increase the number of vendees, we increase the list of commodities as and when needed. We could also provide services like medical practitioners. Here we are not talking about hospitals, But say a general practitioner who could sit in a shop and provide daily medical advice. And it could also mean scaling up could also mean increasing the frequency of operation of the heart. So in most hearts operate only once a week, and in many places there is a demand to increase the frequency of these hearts. Most scaling up would mean increasing the number of border hearts all along the border to help border communities. It could also mean scaling up the basic infrastructure. Right now, the basic infrastructure is abysmal in many of these hearts. And so we need to look at upgrading all these facilities. And of course, like Nasreen has pointed out, we will have to make this infrastructure gender responsive so that more women can participate in these hearts. So border hearts would actually be an important instrument and mechanism to shift informal trade to formal channels, and it would also help traders to carry out trading activities in a safe and secure environment. So that's what we need to keep in mind. And of course, when we're talking about scaling up, it also means that we empower more women to participate in border hearts. So once again, I would say that border hearts would actually be a complement to the other existing mechanisms and not a substitute. And we need to keep in mind that these would exclusively cater to border communities. And so we need to preserve the basic concept of a border heart and use it to integrate the border communities along the entire breadth of the border.
Thank you, Nisha, for putting forward such a forward-looking agenda, forward-looking thoughts. I mean, we need to see how you can take it forward from the agenda. I'm glad that you mentioned about your study with Commerce Ministry and your recommendations. We have also put forward our recommendations to the Commerce Ministry, and taken together, they have led to this revised MOU, where many of our recommendations have been taken on board. Some of them were started implementing, getting implemented, but then COVID happened. Unfortunate thing. I'll not go into the details of that, but I hope that once the summits have resumed and once it resumes, things are going to come back in a much more.
I think I'm very optimistic on that count. I didn't answer your question, but I don't think there should be any pessimism on that count. The vaccination drive is going on in full swing in both countries, and I think the vaccination drive will get completed around the same time in both countries.
So yeah, absolutely. And there you see this. I don't know how to put it. It's another example of seamless connectivity.
Yes,
between the two countries.
Seamless along the breadth.
Connectivity is not just about roads or
bridges, right, exactly, absolutely,
or railway lines. It's much more. I mean, this brings, after hearing all of you, and before I come to Tania, this reminds me about one thing which I often say, that if I don't get ill or don't get indisposed by having Indian bananas, I'm sure that I'll not get ill or indisposed by having Bangladeshi bananas. So why don't we allow Bangladeshi trucks, small trucks with goods, household goods, daily bazar goods, to come into the Indian territory to designated markets, let's say within 50 kilometers, 30 kilometers of the border areas, and then go back, and vice versa. I don't see any harm. I mean, it's not going to affect our trade. It's not going to affect our tariff revenue as a result of trade and things like that. So these are some of these practical things. And I'm saying this after having studied trade economics for 5 years and working on trade issues for more than 25 years. So it is better to forget about theories and all these macro thinkings in order to see how trade can actually benefit people on the ground. So on that note, let me now come to Tania for her thoughts, including on how to take it forward, how to see to it that more and more women participation is there, not just in terms of vendors but also in terms of vendies, in terms of consumers.
Yeah.
So, and what is the thinking in Bangladesh, particularly in women groups, in the overall NGO community about this initiative? So over to you, Tania, in about 10 minutes.
Thank you, Vipulda. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to take the opportunity to congratulate all of our honorable speakers for their vibrant presentations. No doubt their presence here is a token of solidarity and unity that embraces all of us together to discuss and share knowledge and experience in dealing with a very vital, critical issue from gender perspective. We have realized that Border Hat is a moderately new endeavor in the region bordering between India and Bangladesh. The focus between the two countries typically has always been on big issues, but there is a need to prioritize local issues which may improve the daily lives of the people living in the border areas. All of our presenters pointed out that border huts as an instrument to increase the local livelihood, promote healthier cross-border, facilitate proper network,
Sorry, it seems there is again connectivity issue. So what do we do? Maybe we can request Ratul to come in now with his thoughts, having worked in border areas, doing a lot of stories from there. I mean, and yeah, please. Okay, we'll come to, I mean, given this time constraint as well, we'll come back to Tania. I'm sure that.
Oh God. Today, the network situation is very vulnerable in Bangladesh.
No,
we are suffering a lot.
Go ahead, please. Sorry.
Yeah. And so let me focus on papers presented today. Sabasati Dotto in his paper argues that appropriate infrastructure and technologies can inspire confidence in seeing border zones, not as thick lines of regulation, but as connectors for mutual growth and co-prosperity. Dr. Mahbooba Nasreen has pointed out in her paper that women's empowerment in the region by enhancing women's participation in the labor market, we have realized that exclusion of women from the market is unjustified and represents a vast economic and competitive loss for any society. Moreover, creating an enabling environment for equal opportunity and treatment in the labor market for both women and men would also contribute to poverty reduction, the achievement of SDGs and social justice. Finally, Asadul Kibria argues that media in both countries can enhance its knowledge and understanding about border huts from such research and develop stories and disseminate awareness about border huts among the people at large. Media in both countries has a wide scope to investigate the functioning of border huts and provide vital inputs for further development thereof. The extent of coverage in the media will also be a measure of interest of people in border huts. We know that the COVID-19 pandemic has created absolute turmoil around the world, which brought the globe to a grinding halt along with challenging changes in our country, economy, society, and families. The pandemic, however, has also thrown up opportunities. The lives of women have changed a lot. Many expectations have been met and many are yet to be fulfilled. Life, livelihood, development, human rights, gender relation, all impacted by this pandemic and may need to be revised in the COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 world. The 2021 International Women's Day has wisely taken this pandemic situation into account and incorporated it into its theme to plan and work on equality and development. Women in leadership achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. We know gender equality cannot be attained in the absence of equal rights, and women themselves have to be active agents for this change. Now, problems. Therefore, so forming our traditional mentalities and cultural norms. Therefore, there is no doubt that social dialogues take different routes, new ideas, and bring diversity. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tanya, for putting your thoughts very, very clearly. I mean, we're definitely going to take them forward. By the way, beautiful study, which we can see. There's a beautiful clock at the back, but it's not working. We have to change this battery, maybe. Anyway, so let me come to Ratul. With your thoughts, since you have worked in border areas, particularly in Assam, and I know that the new border huts are coming in Assam-Bangladesh border as well. So what is the thinking in the local community, among the local community, among local politicians? So that would be interesting to know from you. Over to you, Ratul. In about 10 minutes, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Bipulda. I hope I am audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So, hello, good afternoon to everyone. And just a little clarification. I didn't work for Assam Tribune, as people say. I worked for the Meghalaya Guardian for past 7 years. And recently, I'm into freelancing for a project in Assam. That's a social media Assam project. So I had extensively worked in Meghalaya, actually. Today's topic is about scaling up border huts, how, why, and how. How, why, and what. I want to stress my point on how, why. Some of us movie Cars. It's a 2006 movie, Hollywood movie, animation movie. It is about cars are the characters in the movie, and it is about a small town, and that small town getting it was a bustling town, and it's getting ignored and turned into a rejected site. Everyone means it's into ruins. Only a few living beings, means cars, were there. Since everyone started ignoring it, means everyone started not visiting it, the businesses were down, and it is because of an expressway just passing by the town. Earlier, all vehicles used to pass the town, and with the expressway built by the government, so everyone bypassed the town, and the town's economy nosedived. So the story about a lot of characters, and the movie means there is a happy ending, and the town becomes bustling again. But my point is that there is a lot in the hands of policymakers. So it's just a small decision of making a road bypassing the town can change the fate of the town, can change the lives of the people for good. So whatever we may say, whatever we may discuss, the underline the need and how to do it, it is up to the policymakers to go ahead what to do. But for policymakers also, they see the demand. Like when the government builds a road, when there is people, when the government builds a bridge, there are people on the other side of the bridge. And to say frankly, they are both. So if you build a road, if you build a bridge, you connect to people, you give opportunities to people, and in turn, it's a democratic, it's a democracy. So in turn, they give votes and they support the government. So it's a give and take thing. So in case of making policies in favor of border huts also, there has to be a demand. Now, speaking from Meghalaya point of view, I have visited border areas, extensively visited the border areas. So demand, there is a demand, but the demand is not that intense. And besides, there is the larger feeling of infiltration from Bangladesh also hampers, also hinders the government to take any, means to go aggressively for any pro-border hut policies for the state government. And center the same, because the center has to be in tune with the sentiment of the people of that particular state where the border huts are coming up and where the border huts are existing. I went to a border, it's not a border hut, it's in Khasi Hills near Peninsula. We walked around, say, maybe 5 or 10 kilometers, ancient road, it's an ancient track, so rock steps were there. So it was quite miserable for me that year. It was around 2006. That place is called Umniu. It is not a border hut, but it is there is a shade. There is a concrete shade, maybe built by some with some village funds or what, and the BSF personnel were facilitating that trade. They were not disturbed. So Bangladesh people came. It's like a border hut. So almost the rules, like what kind of goods you can trade there. There is a limit. So BSF personnel used to monitor the situation there, but trade is facilitated. As Ms. Taneja just now said that along the India-Bangladesh, Mizoram-Bangladesh border, there are several such border trade points, informal border trade points. So there are a few along Meghalaya Bangladesh border also. So these trades are being and one more point, there I met a woman around say 22, 23-year-old, and she was a graduate. She was a trader there. And it was quite a nice feeling to know that. And there were almost 50% of the vendors were women. So at least Meghalaya is compensating on that part of the scenario that women are not, women participation in border hut activities are very less. I think Meghalaya is compensating on that part. So, but my point is that the demand for border hut means, if you see from the capital perspective, is not that intense. And if it is not that intense, when will the government take a call? So there are a lot of important issues before the government, so-called important issues before the government. It is, I think, it is a challenge for people like us and organizations like Haats International to break this barrier, how to bring the awareness among the people, to means make them aware that how border huts can really change the lives, change the economy of the region, and how in turn the people, the local people can reflect that demand to the government, so that the government becomes government is compelled to take prompt decisions based on studies and recommendations made by organizations like Haats International and the panelists present here, because these are the points made after doing a lot of research. So, but the first, the demand to come from the ground, that is my observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakul. And again, my apologies. Sorry for confusing between Assam and Meghalaya. You know, this is what happens when you get a tweet in every 5 minutes from Himantada. So, anyway, I think you made a very important point that the demand is to be generated from the ground. I think the demand is there. What is needed, what is still missing, is that it's not being articulated properly to the policymaker. And there comes the importance of engaging with media, local media in particular, and of course, engaging with policymakers. So we are now coming to an end, or almost an end, to this webinar. We have a number of very distinguished participants, and I would pick up, for the interest of time, for nothing else, I would pick up and request 3 of them to briefly speak about or tell us about their thinking on this subject. Most importantly, how can we take it forward further in its existing form, expanded form, and things like that. So Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, Dr. Didar Singh, and Mr. Manoj Kumar Roy, I will request each of you very briefly if you can tell us your thoughts on this subject. I hope that you are still there. So, Ambassador Chakravarti, first you, very briefly in 2-3 minutes, maybe. Ambassador Chakravarti is, I don't know, I think he has left. Then either Mr. Roy or Dr. Didar Singh. If I see that Mr. Roy is still there, Dr. Didar Singh, I think he has left. So Mr. Roy, Manoj Babu, if we can hear your thoughts.
Yes, actually I can you see me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I can share some thoughts of today's discussion and the last day's discussion. There are issues actually that, yes, there are some points about women's participation, and also some points of the demand. The last media person, he raised a point that the demand of the local area. And you can recall, Bipulda, in the last session, I cited that the one important sentence was used by one, that at the border. It is not from other areas, but at the border, not from the border, not to the border, but at the border. These were some of the words I have actually found very important to express my actually views. The fact is that the demand of the border area, the demands are generated. And now, if there are demands in the market, then you can actually have the growth. Now, how we can actually fulfill this demand? We identified the generation of purchasing capacity of the peoples. Now comes about the women's participation. So I'm going back to my previous day's point that if we can provide, can identify the products of interest from both the sides and actually facilitate the factors across the borders even, and impart some skill to them. Even it is the women also. If we can provide some skills to them, and then they will producing those products that are demanded by the people living across the border. That will be, and providing some also. Today, someone was talking about microcredit also. I was only on that day talking about the access to credit. So my point is that arrange for skills, to provide some skills to the local people, arranging for the factors or raw materials, and giving access to credit for them. This will give a local demand, actually the inner demand at the border, not from other areas, or to other areas. That is the most actually important point from my side. The establishment that has been made in the border, now actually we have to actually use it so that it can be, this can be actually considered as a public good, this border hut. Now we have to arrange that by utilizing this facility, this public good, the border peoples are actually producing goods for them. And as the very ideology behind border hut was that there are scarcity of their commodities day-to-day required. So I will be again actually drawing your attention to that yes, it is not from other areas to the border, or not from the border to other areas. Rather, let us focus at the border. This will give much motivation. One thing is more, the day before also I was talking how to actually include the security forces, the BSF, BGB. They are participating now in the formal meetings, but informally, in the think tank discussion or civil society discussions like Haats participation, we haven't yet able to actually involve them. By person, they are actually participating in the meetings, but let us have an arrangement to include as an institution these border security forces, BSF and BGB, in our actually in the discussion of border hut, so that they are as an institution, they feel the importance of the border hut areas. I think that's my.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a question, rather a couple of questions from Mahua Venkatesh. She is working with the India narrative. And I would request my colleague Arnab Ganguly to address those questions and also give a vote of thanks. The first question is, how much trade on an average is carried out Delhi in those border huts? Just a approximate figure. And what is women's participation in these huts? So over to you, Arnab. Arnab, can you hear me?
Thanks, yes. Thanks, Vipul. Yeah, regarding the business and all, we have some figures that we can, of course, share with Ms. Mohua once she shares her email ID with us. That would be helpful. But I would say, like, it's not about the quantum of business that happens at the border hut which is important. It's the kind of business that the happening which actually supports their livelihood options, their daily needs, etc., which they can get easily from the border huts rather than from the city capitals or the state capitals, which are quite far away from the huts. So that's one point. About the women participation, I would say our previous speakers, they had very well elaborated the various challenges that women are facing there. I would also like to add here, what we have found is the overall socio-economic construct. It has a lot of impact on the women's participation. For example, if we look at Tripura, so there are these are very orthodox areas where men don't prefer women going out of their household activities and participate in the huts. It's same for Bangladesh part as well. While in contrast, when we look at Meghalaya, which is a matrilineal society, women are they are forthcoming and they are participating in the border huts. Now, let me also underline one of the a critical challenge here is, yes, there is a provision that we can reserve the make a provision where number of women vendees and vendors, we can restrict, ensure their numbers. But what we have really found is, yes, there are women vendors who have got chance as a result of this kind of reservation in favor of them. But at the same time, it's their husbands who are, they are, I would say, commanding the business. They are doing the business. the name that these people are using. So overall, a lot of to ensure women participation, a more bigger approach needs to be done. Where women needs to be mobilized, and that's where we are looking at how to involve women self-help groups in the border huts. But we have found that in many pockets, like in Kalaichar, different other places where these border huts are will be coming up very soon. There are a lot of products these women self-help groups are manufacturing. They are not getting their markets properly. So we are trying with the idea how to link them with the border huts. Finally, I would like to thank all of you to be a part of this this webinar, for giving your wonderful and valuable inputs for the study, and a lot of food for thought for going ahead. In this regard, let me also like to mention that we are very soon coming up with a video documentary, which is in the process, that we are making a small video documentary. Once it's done, we'll share with the group. Also, the final research report for this project will also be coming out very soon, and we have covered 4 additional locations. Those findings will also be incorporated in the final report. With this, again, let me thank all of you. Let me thank all the participants, all the contributors who have contributed for developing these the briefing papers and the discussion papers, which were very important for us for for looking at where border huts can go. Thanks. So with this, thank you everyone, each and every one of you, for participating, for enriching us with their ideas. There are a lot of people who were not able to, going to time, they could not raise their questions. They are, they would be, they're free to, send their queries by email, and we would be happy to respond.
Thank you. Thank you, Arnav. So let me join Arnav and other colleagues to thank all of you. I think today's webinar, there is a lot of food for thought. In fact, in our work, we have identified a number of linkages. The linkages which have to be looked at much more carefully, which have to be implemented in order to enhance the effectiveness of this initiative. So on that positive note, let me once again thank you and see you soon.
Thank you, Bipul.
Thank